Hope you're doing. Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Looks like we're having a little technical difficulties. How's that? Hello? Just give us a few minutes, okay? Hello? Hello? Give us 1 second. Okay, looks like I was muted. So welcome to our YouTube channel tonight. Tonight I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the Super Bowl and sports psychology. The two of them go hand in hand. So I just want you to sit back for a while and just listen, relax, take it easy. So Super Bowl 56 took place just a few nights ago, Sunday evening. It was a great game by most. The Cincinnati Bengals versus the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I flew into Los Angeles last week, Thursday. The city was just electric. There was just so much excitement. People were emotionally charged in regards to that event. Wherever you went, it was all about the Super Bowl. The talk was who was going to win it. Everybody, children, young, elderly, the Super Bowl. It grasped everyone's attention. Los Angeles was teeming. A matter of fact, the city was so busy, I tried to rent a car days before I got to Los Angeles. And guess what? Everything was sold out. Couldn't find a rental car. So I had to take a Uber for the first time. And what was really intriguing is that the destination that I was going to was about 65 miles from Los Angeles. And for those of you who have never been to LA, it's extremely expensive. The ride almost cost me $300. Everything's expensive in LA. Gas was about $5.50. Now, I went to LA on an assignment. I was asked to work with a professional fighter, a former heavyweight champion. And his team called me and said that we need you to come out, we need you to help him. A lot of people forget that athletes are humans and they struggle with life issues just like all of us. They may struggle with mental health problems, family issues, relationship problems, substance abuse, and I can go on and on and on. So the fighter that they asked me to come in and just spend some time with, he's got an important fight coming up. So they want to make sure that mentally he's well and obviously physically, because the two go hand in hand. You really can't have both or one without the other. So that was my assignment, and I was just fortunate to be there for the Super Bowl weekend. So I got to see a lot of Los Angeles. The Uber driver did me a favor. He said, I'm going to take you by SoFi Field. And he was confident that the Rams were going to win. So we went by, and obviously, even late at night, people were just outside the stadium, walking around, talking. And once again, just tremendous electricity in the city. Now, just understand that it takes a lot for a team to get to the Super Bowl. Players give everything, almost their very lives, to get to that Super Bowl, to get to that event. Because when you get there, it shows that you have reached the pinnacle of success. Because only two teams can make it, one from the NFC and one from the AFC. That is the measuring stick for success, for bragging rights, to say that we are the best of the best. So that's what the Super Bowl is all about. It's a cultural event in America. It brings people together, even though they might be on opposing sides. But everyone is braced and ready for that game. The Rams bested the Bengals in a hard fought battle with everything on the line. As of right now, we don't know the numbers in terms of the viewers that tuned into the Super Bowl, but I'm sure it's a healthy number. Super Bowl 2015 was the most watched Super Bowl ever, and that was between the Seahawks and the Patriots. That particular game, 114.4 million people tuned in. So once again, phenomenal numbers. Now on Friday, I had talked about the quarterbacks and their IQ scores. The NFL gives an intelligence test to the players. And the particular instrument that they use is called the Wonderlic. Now, that is one of the most widely used intelligence tests. Not as popular as what's called the WISC, which is used for young people up to 16 years of age, or the WAIS, the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale for adults. Those are the most widely used intelligence tests. But the Wonderlic is still a good instrument in terms of someone's intelligence. It looks at your ability to solve problems, to conceptualize things, to formulate decisions. It looks at your ability to analyze things. And believe it or not, it has some math questions on that test. Now, here's what's interesting. The NFL gives that test along with other physical measures to assess an athlete's potential. So the Wonderlic has a score of 50. That's the highest score that anyone can achieve. Once again, the average score for that is 20. And of the highest scores ever achieved in the NFL, they've looked at the 12 highest scores, and 8 of the highest scorers have been quarterbacks. So once again, that should tell you that being a quarterback is more than just throwing a football. You've got to be able to think. You have to be able to process information. You have to have a good memory. You've got to be able to synthesize information quickly. So quarterbacks, believe it or not, are smart people. Now, when we looked at the scores of Matthew Stafford, he scored a 38 on the Wonderlic. And trust me, that's a good score. Quarterback Burrow, he had a score of 34. So you can see that both of them had similar scores. And once again, that test is all about your cognitive ability. How can this athlete process information? How can he download the information on the field? Because as a quarterback, you have to be able to look off certain players and then be able to shoot that ball down the field in the opposite direction to where your eyes are looking, because you know what your receiver is going to do. And if you place the ball where you're supposed to, he's going to catch it, hopefully. So it takes a lot to be a QB. So we know that these two quarterbacks can think, they can process, they can analyze, they have good cognitive abilities. So they both did well. But as I said on Friday, one of the most important things for me as a psychologist who evaluates hundreds of people all the time, young people, children, adults. I'm giving tests all the time to gain information. What is this person's intelligence quotient? Are they in the average range? Are they in the above average range? Are they in the superior range? Are they in the average? And remember, when we look at intelligence testing, about 68% of people who take an intelligence test will score within the average range, which is between 90 and 100. So if someone is scoring within that range, we know that this is a pretty smart person. And then you have the below average, and then you have borderline. So intelligence test is complex. So once again, these two people, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, they scored well on the Wonderlic test. But I said I'm more interested in someone's EQ. What's EQ? EQ is their emotional intelligence. That means when this person gets information, because as people, when we get information, it comes to us first emotionally. And then we have to be able to convert that emotionality into rational thinking. Not everybody's able to do that. But to me, that's an important variable, especially as a QB, because that game, football, is an emotional sport. When you have 60, 70, 80,000 fans yelling and screaming, you have to be able to detach yourself from that and focus on the game. So I said that I believe that the emotional intelligence of an athlete, as well as a person, will say a lot about that individual. Because some of us, friends, family members, tend to be extremely emotional. But when you take in that emotional information first, how are you going to process it? What are you going to do with it? Especially when you're excited, you're elated. But a quarterback has to be calm. He has to be cool. Because on that field, we see the quarterback as the person who is the leader. And trust me, it is not easy to be a leader, especially on a football field. I've played football at a high level, and the game might look easy, but it's not. And the QB has to be able to of that quarterback has to be sharp, but he also has to be emotionally stable because he's dealing with the other players on the field. And sometimes when he goes to the line of scrimmage and he sees certain things, he might call a different play because his EQ is stepping in. And when we look at that emotional intelligence, we know that there's 5 stable emotional feelings that we as people experience: happiness, sadness, anger, fear, and shame. And all of those feelings are coming into play on that football field. So to be able to process that and to recalibrate that and compartmentalize that in a heated battle, it's not easy. So if you remember what I said on Friday, the one who has the highest emotional intelligence is the one that's going to play the best. And I said, you know what? I think I know who that person is. A great game. It was a spectacle. It came down to the wire. Joe Burrow threw for 263 yards. And his counterpart, Matthew Stafford, threw for 283 yards. So they're very similar in many, many ways. So once again, the QBs are the leaders. They're the leaders of the other players. They're the leader of the team. And it's not easy to lead. Leaders emerge in difficult situations. And certainly, we saw leadership. We saw generalship on that football field by both QBs. So I take my hat off to both of them. But unfortunately, in this game of football, one team emerges as a winner. I said that the EQ is extremely important. And both QBs, in my opinion, demonstrated extremely high, great EQ. They remained calm, showed mental toughness, and they stayed in the moment when things was tense, emotional, and up and down. I was really impressed with Joe Burrow, how he handled himself for someone who was only 23 years of age. His youthfulness wasn't problematic. He was composed and mature beyond his years. And I believe that most of you will agree with me. Stafford handled himself well. He really did. He decided to take charge in the final minutes. He came through, and we have to give him credit. Okay? Matthew Stafford is known for his comeback abilities, especially late in the game. And most people don't know this about Matthew Stafford, but he's the first QB to get to 45,000 yards the fastest. And that says a lot, because if we talk about QBs, we can name so many. Brady obviously comes to mind, but he got there faster than Brady. Michael Vick, phenomenal. He got there faster. I can go on and on in terms of names. Joe Namath, Roger Staubach, but Matthew Stafford got there the fastest. Psychologically, Stafford was loaded. What do I mean by psychologically he was loaded? There was a tremendous amount of pressure on him to win. He was playing in his home state. And there's a saying that a prophet has no honor in his hometown. So he had to deal with that. And as athletes, we're carrying the weight of people on our backs, the weight of a country, the weight of a state. So the stakes were really, really high for Stafford. If the Rams lost, Stafford would hear that he can't win the big ones. And I'm sure he heard a lot of that in Detroit. So he had to overcome that obstacle. That was his nemesis. He couldn't win the big ones. So he carried a lot of pressure. Pressure obviously can affect performance. Because when there's too much pressure, we know that performance declines. So you have to have the right amount of pressure and stress to be able to deal with the moment. And he did. He handled himself well, and his EQ elevated in the last few minutes of the game. He's a general. He's the boss. He's the leader. And for a lot of Detroit Lions fans, Matthew Stafford has rescued the Lions in many, many ways. And he did that on Sunday. So we certainly have to give him his props, mad props. And once again, Joe Burrow deserves mad props as well. Football is a team sport. This was a team victory for the Los Angeles Rams. I said on Friday that football, sports, is a microcosm of life. It's a microcosm of the game of life. Never forget that. When we make the right moves on the football field, when we do the things that we're supposed to, things work out and the victory comes. So is the game of life. When we make good decisions, when we make the right moves, when we treat people in a righteous way, good things are going to come our way. So just remember that. At the end of the game, we heard players say we trusted each other. And trust is one of the most important variables in the game of life. In relationships, trust is everything. And the thing about trust is that it does take time to develop. It happens over time. But also, we can lose trust in an instant. So think about that. Having a trusting relationship is extremely important. And with athletes, that's so important. Because when you know what someone is going to do and they do it, it just increases that trust. So at the end of the game, we heard players saying, I just trusted my teammates. Trust is foundational for good relationships. We heard players saying, I just had to rely on my support system. And they were talking about each other. Okay? They were saying, man, my teammates, I knew that I could count on them. And that is so important in the game of life, is being able to have a good support system. People who are surrounding you and helping you, knowing that if you need them, they're going to come through. So once again, football, a microcosm of life. Surround yourself with good people. People that you know will help you to be better. I was really impressed with Aaron Donald. And this is what he said. He said, I've been dreaming about this moment all of my life. And that's a good thing about sports. It helps us to dream. So never stop dreaming, especially as young people, in terms of what you want to do and what you can accomplish. So what Aaron Donald was saying is that I've been visualizing this. I've been seeing this. This moment has been etched in my mind. And now that it's here, I'm not surprised because I've been dreaming about this for such a long time. And what I liked about Aaron Donald is that his name, I don't know if Aaron Donald knows this, but he has a Hebrew name. And his Hebrew name is Aharon pronounced, but it means the exalted one, the one who has strength, the mountain of strength. And he certainly showed that. He said that, I just want to thank God. And he said it twice. He said, God is great. God is great. And this has been a blessing. I talked about the psychology of sports. It has a spiritual meaning, a spiritual dimension to sports. And he demonstrated that. We see people praying at games. They're just asking, Lord, God, give us the victory. So that says a lot, because in that battle, when two teams come together to clash, they're dependent on God to help them with that battle. So once again, Aaron Donald, the exalted one, he came through and he really rallied his team. If you remember, he plowed through and got the sack that sealed the victory for the Rams. It was just a great game. It was thrilling. It was exciting. It went down to the wire. It was a spectacle. And I would be remiss if I didn't say anything about the halftime show. It lived up to the billing. It was great. It was just fantastic. I love music. Music is my go-to thing to just help me to relax. So that was a great halftime show. Wonderful. The commercials didn't disappoint. I had people calling me and, what did you think about that one? Man, that one's great. I love it. So yes, the commercials didn't disappoint. So the Super Bowl lived up to its billing. Joe Burrow showed class as he walked off the field. He had done the best that he could. He walked off with his head held high, and he looked proud. I remember sometimes when I used to play football, my mother used to say, son, play proud. Joe Burrow played proud. I was impressed with him, especially, as I said earlier, as someone who was 23 years of age. He conducted himself with tremendous grace, class, and class is important because all the money in the world can't buy class. You either have it or you don't. Joe Burrow showed his class. And I just admired how he competed and how he left everything on that football field. And he didn't hold his head down, but he just walked it out in stride because he knew he competed at the highest level and he competed hard. But that's the game of life. The microcosm of the game of life, the psychology of the game of life. We can give it all that we have, but it doesn't mean that we're going to get the victory. But the important thing is to compete at the highest level. So Super Bowl 56 was an epic battle between two great teams who belonged. It was a great game. It was a gladiatorial, just like the gladiators in the Colosseum in Rome. They fought it out. They slugged it out. They were willing to do anything for that victory. Some of the Rams were crying. I saw Odell Beckham, a great receiver, but he was overcome with emotions because that's what football, that's what the game of sports, it does to you. It brings out things that you didn't think was internal. Okay, it was an entertaining game, really entertaining. Never forget that. And we love entertainment. We'll pay anything to be entertained because sports help us to take off some of the stressors in our lives. Because this game of life isn't easy. So the psychology of sports is that it provides us with an outlet. It really does. Men, especially men of color, love and identify with football because psychologically, When men go to work, they're going out there to do battle for their family, for their loved ones, maybe even for their community. So it's a microcosm of the game of life. Life is a battle. Football is a microcosm of life. In closing, the APA, the American Psychological Association, Division 47, defines sports psychology as a scientific study of the psychological factors associated with participation and performance in sports. Sports psychology focuses on helping athletes using psychological principles to help them perform at the highest level. So I want you to remember that. So psychology and sports is intertwined. Sports psychologists, they help athletes, players, to achieve optimal mental health and to improve their performance. Because in our society, we're caught up, we love people, athletes who are winners. Winning is everything, as long as you win fairly. And that was demonstrated on the football field in Super Bowl 56. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Rams and to the Cincinnati Bengals, because they both competed at a high level. They gave it all. They gave the fans more than they had bargained for. It was a nail biter. It's just a great game. We have been entertained and blessed with some phenomenal football this year. I still think about that game between Kansas City and Buffalo. Now, you want to talk about an epic clash. It went back and forth. 1 minute, everyone thought that Buffalo was going to win it. The next second, it went back. You know what? Kansas City has this. That was a nail biter. It's just great football. So yes, the NFL delivered, over-delivered in terms of entertainment this year with the NFL. So I say props to the players, props to all the teams. It was great. Psychology and football, they go hand in hand. When I was with the fighter in Los Angeles, he had his team together and we talked about certain things and we planned a strategy to help him become the best that he can become, the best that he can be, and once again to hopefully become a world champion fighter again. Sports is incredible. It gives us a sense of invincibility. Sports also connects people together. And in this game of life, we need each other. There's interdependence. We depend on each other. I can't make it without you. And that's the great thing about sports. It helps us in terms of our discipline. Because as an athlete, you have to wake up early. You have to train. And if you're not invested, you can't win. So once again, just a great year of football culminating in an incredible Super Bowl, which gave us all that we wanted, all that we expected, and just a great game. So in closing, I just want to say this. Everyone you meet is fighting a battle. Everyone you and I meet, they're fighting a battle that you and I know nothing about. absolutely nothing. Be kind always. How you and I handle a situation with someone will make all the difference in the world. Thank you. And I appreciate you tuning in. And we will connect again. Good night.